Hey, welcome to Bike Scoop, our weekly show here at Performance Bicycle, where we talk about all the latest things that are happening in our world that we're excited about and we want to share with you. Today I'm joined by Tom. How's it going, Tom?
Hey, pretty good, Zach. How are you?
Good, I'm doing good. And today we're talking all about kids' bicycles. It's a great time of the year to pick up a kid's bike, whether it's for the kid in your life or yourself. If you're a big kid, we have big kids' bikes too. But you know, a lot of times people get concerned about this because they're like, well, how do I teach a kid how to ride a bike? You know, I want to get them, like, where do I go, what do I do? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to teach a kid how to ride a bike, give you some tips and some tricks, and then we're going to talk about the differences of bicycles that are out there for kids, kind of from like the smallest to the biggest, and we're also going to talk to you a little bit about our Performance Hide-A-Bike program. Now, if this is your first time joining this is the Bike Scoop. It happens every Wednesday at 3 p.m., so thanks a ton for tuning in. We put a blog post up earlier this week. You can scroll down the thread and you can read that blog post. Again, it's another angle from one of our copywriters on what she's been doing to teach her kid how to ride bikes. And then what else? We asked our customers earlier this week like what their first experience was. So there's a cool post there. Read the comments on there. There's a lot of comments.
Good.
Really good stories. So thanks to everyone who commented there. And you know, if you're on Instagram, head over and follow us at Performance Bike. We're having a really cool giveaway going on right now. We're giving away a e-bike worth $1,400. Go to Instagram because the competition is going, or the giveaway is happening on Instagram. So go over there and check that out to learn more about that. But let's jump into it, Tom. Tell us about our Hide-A-Bike program. It's a really cool thing. Like if you're out there, if you're thinking like, hey, I want to buy a bike, but bikes are big, like what do I do with the bikes?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest
questions. How do I hide it?
Yeah,
where do I put it? We can help you with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you buy a bike for your kid, let's say you buy a 24-inch bike like this, it's a big gift, right? Obviously, it's just physically a large gift. So you can't just take it home and hide it in a closet.
Right.
So at our stores, we offer something called Hide-A-Bike. It's really simple. You come in, you pick out the bike you want to get, you buy that bike, and then that bike is yours. We put a tag on it, and we hide it in the back of the store. Then your shopping is done, and you don't have to come back until as late as Christmas Eve. Check your local store hours just to make sure when they're closing, but you can swing on by on Christmas Eve and pick up the bike. Then you only really have to keep it hidden for one night, as opposed to keep it hidden for weeks. Where are you going to keep it? I know some people that try to stuff it in their attic, they try to stuff it over their neighbor's house. It's hard to do. So we store the bike for you, which makes it real easy, and it's called Hide-A-Bike. Very simple.
Yep, and you can check that out online or go into any of our stores for more information on that. So let's talk about like learning how to ride a bike. I mentioned earlier that a lot of people were sharing their experiences with us earlier. Tom, you've got a great story. Tell us about how you learned how to ride a bike.
Well, yeah. So when I was a kid, I lived in New Jersey at the time, and we were learning how to ride bikes, me and my older sister. And my older sister picked it up pretty quick, so I, of course, got the hand-me-down bike from her. And it was an old Schwinn from the 70s, and it was a bike that's non-pneumatic, which means it does not have air in the tires. So that the tires were hard rubber, and not only were they hard rubber, but they were squared off tires. It's not that they were worn down, they were intentionally square. So if you leaned the bike up, you let go of it, it would just stay upright. And it was an awful experience riding that bike because the tires were so hard. And also, as soon as you start to lean over a little bit, you ride up on that corner, it made it really hard to ride.
Right.
And my dad at the time, Dad, if you're watching, I got to tell this story. He did the thing you hear all the time, which he took me to the top of a hill, put me on the bike, and was like, all right, have at it.
Whoosh.
And then,
how'd it end up?
Not great. Not great, to be honest. So I was kind of terrified of bikes for the first few months and years of, kind of getting into bikes. It was always kind of a little bit of a weird experience for me. And from the story you told me about your daughters, it just sounds like that would have been a much better experience.
Yeah, so to that point, I have 6-year-old daughters. They're twin daughters, twins. And I started them riding when they were about 3 years old, pretty much like as soon as they were tall enough to stand over a balance bike, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But even this past weekend, at 6 years old, they're these tiny little things. They're in like the 10th percentile of their height and weight. And we were out riding in the neighborhood, and there's a trail out there, and there was like a 10-year-old boy out there trying to learn, and they just passed him. They went right by him. They were going over all of the bumps out on the mountain bike trail. They love to ride the pump track. And again, they're like showing up kids that are almost twice their age because they've been doing it for a long time. And the first time I got them on the bike, was the right way to do it. And so to that point, we want to give you all like some tips and some tricks, because the very first experience that someone has really for any outdoor activity, right, or any activity is going to make or break their decisions moving forward. Like if you decide to go rock climbing and you have like a horrible experience and you fall off the rock, like you're probably never going to go rock climbing again, right? So it's similar with bicycles. You want to provide a great first experience. So to that point, start with a safe space, right? So I started like in the grass, in my yard, in the backyard with a slight decline. There's a ton of parks out there too. So if you don't have that in your backyard, take the bike, they're tiny bikes, put it in the car, hop on the train, ride the bus, like whatever you need to do to go to the park. That's where you want to start. And the first thing you want to do is like make sure, again, it's a safe environment. And again, speaking of safe environments, make sure they have helmets. Like that's a given. It's like
obviously
required by law. Put a helmet on the kid. Pads are like optional for little kids. Pads can actually be kind of bulky. And make it kind of hard to like pedal. And you've had a lot of experience teaching kids too from retail world.
Yeah. I actually used to work at a store.
Right?
Where I actually taught kids how to ride bikes on the weekends. So I've seen a lot of kids succeed with this method that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it does work.
Little kid shows up and they got all the pads and they can like barely walk. Right.
It can make it hard to do.
Assess the kid and like see how big they are and see how big the pads are and see if it works. But yeah, make sure they have a helmet and you're in a safe space. The next thing is to pick the right size bike.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about the sizes of bikes and the differences of them in a minute. But we have a video online on our YouTube channel that's all about kids' bike sizing. And the size is super important. And you can just Google it too. There's lots of charts out there. It's solely based on how tall the kid is, right? That's it. So like when I started with my girls, they were tiny. And the balance bike that was the smallest bike that you could purchase made the most sense for them. But if they were 10 and they were taller, I wouldn't start them on a 12-inch balance bike. I'd probably start them on a 16-inch bike or even a 20-inch bike, again, depending on their height. All right. So that's safe space, safe environment, helmet, right size bike. Okay. And then like generally speaking, just like an encouragement for it. Like be excited about it. Don't be overbearing. Don't make them do it. But like, what I did is I would show the girls mountain bike videos of like female athletes just totally shredding out there, and they loved it.
That's a great idea.
And they're like, I want to do that, Dad.
That's a great idea.
And it's like, yes, okay, let's go do it. I'll show you that. I showed my excitement for like the final sprint in the Tour de France. Is Sagan going to get it? Is Cavendish going to get it? And the girls are like, who's going to get it? And they don't understand it, but like they know I'm excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and so that gets them excited. So I kind of like planted the seeds early, and then presented them with the opportunity, and they wanted to take me up on it. So again, the first thing to do though is like teach one skill at a time.
Right? Yes, it's all about one skill at a time. So if you think about riding a bicycle, you're actually doing a lot of different things. You're not only just riding the bike, but you're balancing the bicycle. You're also learning how to steer and how to turn. You're also learning how to pedal, which is a completely separate skill. And then if you have a handbrake, you're learning how to use that. And if you have gears, you're learning how to do that. So that's a lot of stuff for a little kid to handle all at once. So we recommend just breaking it down to the simplest skill possible, which is actually the hardest skill to learn, but it's the skill that keeps them upright the most, is start with balancing and turning. That's it. So just balance, figure that part out, and the turning kind of comes with that. They're kind of the same thing. But once your child can balance, they're less likely to fall over. And so then they can get onto the pedaling and the brakes and the gears and all that stuff.
And so if they're small enough to need a balance bike, this is a great version of it right here.
This is a balance bike right
Start with the balance bike. It doesn't have pedals on it. If they are need a bigger bike than that, or if you want to just start them on a 12-inch pedal bike, take the pedals off and take the training wheels off. Like the training wheels, just throw them away or save them, and you can include them with the resale of the bike later when it's time to size up to
that's the best thing about the balance method is if you use the balance method, you never need training wheels. You literally just skip them entirely.
And so the balance thing, start at the top of the hill.
A very
give them a slight little push. Not a big hill. Stay by them. Be confidence inspiring. Be there to grab them if they fall over. And I think the biggest thing here is to be patient. Right. So
that's actually the hardest part.
Did not teach the girls balance in one day. And I started them young, but it took quite a long time. Like probably months, to be honest, for them to learn the balance. And again, they were little, but it was a lot of back and forth for me, but I had a good time. I was patient. And then like another big point is if they get burnt out and tired of it, like don't force it. Put the bikes down, go inside, like go do another activity, because let's face it, attention spans of little kids is like
and I would treat it like a scooter. If you just gave your child a scooter, you give them a scooter and they just play with it and they figure it out. If you give them a balance bike, it's the same thing. They're just riding a scooter, they're just sitting on it. So if you think about that, you never think about a child using a scooter and not figuring it out, because they just figure it out.
Exactly.
Same thing with a balance bike. Just give them the bike, they sit on it, they walk with their feet, and they eventually learn to run and do little hops. When I was working with little kids, I called it the kangaroo. Super simple. You walk with the bike, and then you just lift up both feet and hop. and just do a little hop. And you can do this on a perfectly flat ground as well. And they just go around in circles and figure it out. And eventually they start kind of hopping and then running, and then they can just pick their feet up and glide, and then that's it.
Exactly.
And it doesn't, it depends on the child. Some children it takes a while. And you know your kid better than we do.
Yeah.
But some other kids, they can pick it up in an afternoon. I've seen one child learn it in as quickly as an hour or two.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool.
Cool. So once they learn the balance, they're kicking with their feet, they're picking their feet up, and in at least my kids' example, they start carving and stuff like that. Then you know, like, okay, it's time to teach them how to pedal. And like, just a great thing I would try to teach them is to go ahead, you know, feet out, kick just like that they were doing on a balance bike.
Exactly.
You get the speed up first. Once they get the speed up, then they can put their feet onto the pedals and learn to start pedaling.
Yeah, pedaling from a dead stop is not easy to do.
No,
when
not
you're
at
a
all.
little kid. So get moving first, get rolling and balancing, then you just put your feet on the pedals. Then you can fiddle around with the pedaling part.
Exactly, exactly. And again, be patient with this. And this, in my experience, is where the boo-boos start to come out. So like once they start pedaling, in some cases the pedals are bashing their shins and stuff like that. So to that point, like wear jeans or like cover up the shins if you can to prevent the boo-boos if they're small.
They'll toughen up their kids.
Once they learn the pedaling, it's this very fine balance though between teaching the braking. So I always kind of planted the seed about braking like as they were learning pedaling too. Again, one main thing at a time. But if they learn pedaling, then all of a sudden they go from going this fast to going that fast.
Yes.
Right? And so then they're going twice as fast, which means that they could crash twice as hard. They could crash twice as fast.
That's where the helmet comes in, some Band-Aids, and they're going to be fine.
So again, safe environment. Grass is great for this.
Yes.
Until they learn the braking part, because braking can be, a challenge.
It's a separate skill. It really is.
Yeah. I've learned how to stay on top of it. I've learned to make it go forward. Now wait a minute. Now I have to push backwards to make it stop. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So most of the bikes, 12 inches. And then 16 inches, and then some 20 inches are going to have what we call coaster brakes or push brakes.
Yes, coaster brakes, you pedal backwards and it stops.
Yeah. Okay, so this, now we're kind of to the part where we've provided a safe environment. We've made sure they have helmets on. We've taught the balance first. Then we taught the pedaling. Now we've taught the braking. And at this point, if they're still little, just like they're going to be on the same bike, but at some point they're going to have to level up to the next bike, right, to the next size. So when we get to 20-inch bicycles, that's when we're presented with new options.
Yes.
Again, this could be early in your path of teaching your kid, depending on their age.
Yeah, some kids learn faster than others. I've had some kids learn how to ride a bike pretty quickly, and they can go into gears very quick. I know some adults that still don't know how to use gears. That's fine.
Yeah.
We all develop at different levels.
So considerations, once you get to the 20-inch, coaster brake versus handlebar brakes.
Yep.
What would we, what's a good example of needing one over the other?
Well, anytime you have a geared bike, all geared bikes have handbrakes. You can't really get a geared bike. I know there's going to be some people in the thread saying, well, you can get internally geared coaster brake. I know, but that's not on like a kid's bike. With kids' bikes, when you're talking about a geared bike, it has handbrakes.
Yeah.
So those come as a package. If you have a coaster brake bike, generally, it doesn't have any gears. So if you just want a simple bike for your kid to ride, they just want something they can ride around the neighborhood and kind of beat up, coaster brake bike is great for neighborhoods, sidewalks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's a single speed.
Yeah, single speed, super simple, it's durable, works great.
Yeah.
But let's say you want to take your kids mountain biking, or
Right.
let's say you have a charity ride you want to do, and you're just going to do the 10 miles, not too far, but you want to take your kids with you. They're going to need some gears to be able to keep up with you.
Yeah.
So then you can move into the 20-inch bike, or even some of the bigger bikes if it fits your kid, and they have a lot more gears and a lot more options, so they can ride a lot further and a lot faster.
Also hills, if you're in a really hilly
Yes.
area, single speeds probably aren't the best option,
Yes.
right? Because it's harder to push that gear up those hills and stuff like that. All right, so then once we get to this point, it's basically you start to get into the discussion of where do they want to ride and what do they want to do and what do they want to accomplish. So again, to your point, if they're wanting to ride longer, a geared bike's great because you can go faster on it, which is awesome. If you're in the mountain area, you need to go up hills. If you're riding in the woods, riding mountain bikes, geared options are great. And then we start to see options where you can get a front suspension fork, which is going to be great for off-road. And these are kind of the same considerations that you would use for yourself as far as where you want to ride. And there's tons of options. And again, as they grow older, you're just going to keep progressing up. We just talked about the 20-inch bike. So after 20-inch, the next thing is a 24-inch. Once we get into 24 inches, there's some really cool options
Yes.
as well that you can get. And then 26 inches is kind of the last size of wheel where they're no longer kind of on kids' bikes anymore.
Then it becomes effectively like a really small adult bike.
Yeah.
And now one of the questions I always get around Christmas time is, I want to surprise my kid with a bike, but I don't know what size they need, so how do I buy them a bike and I don't know what size? That's one of the big advantages with Performance. We have locations all over the country, so if you go in, you can do your best guesstimate, just come in with your child's size, how tall they are. We can do our best guess to get the right bike, and if you take it home and you're like, surprise, here's your bike, and it's not the right size, you can come back in and we can get you the right size. We can totally take care of you.
Yeah.
So we make it really easy for you to get the right bike that your kid's gonna love and they're gonna ride, and you're gonna get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah. And one thing I think we should definitely talk about while we're here is the quality of the bicycles that we sell. All right, so our bicycles are nicer than things that you'll find at big mass stores, right? We are a national retailer, but we still only have like right over 100 stores. Everyone there who works at our stores are avid cyclists and they're passionate about the sport, and we carry really great brands. The benefit with getting our bicycles over something from a mass store is, for one, they're going to be built properly. A lot of times, the bikes that you find in mass stores, the forks are on backwards, the brakes don't work, and they fall apart pretty quick, and you're going to have to be bringing them into a bicycle shop to get repaired sooner than later. And then you're going to be spending as much as you paid for the bicycle on the repairs. All right, so we've got you covered from the repair stance. Again, we build the bicycles in-house. We check them, lots of safety checks. And the bicycles that we sell are lighter weight. So yes, you can save more on a bicycle at a mass retailer. But if you spend a little bit more, not much, just a little bit more, you're going to get a lighter weight bike. And you might say to yourself, oh, well, it's only like an extra 5 pounds lighter than the mass version, right? But remember that it's for a child, and they're little. And so an extra 5 pounds on a bicycle for a little tyke is like adding 20 pounds to your bike. And like, I don't want to add 20 pounds to my bike. It's worth the extra money for me, not to be riding around on a 40-pound bike, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so please take that into consideration. Again, we have the Hide-A-Bike program, so come into the stores, talk to our associates. They can help you narrow it down to the bicycle that you need, and then we'll store it for you.
Yep.
Cool. Again, let us know if you have any questions. This is the Bike Scoop. Happens every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we'll be talking with the wild man Todd Lyons about new SE bikes, accessories,
I didn't know that was
and
coming.
T-shirts.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
Yes. And thanks a lot for following along. We appreciate it. And hey, happy holidays, all right? Cheers.
Thanks, guys. See ya.